And I'm going to start by sharing my screen as well. Get back to the right screen. There we go. So we have launched the it's actually Adopt a Woman Veteran Project, because I'll explain why. All of these stories we have, many of you know who General Vaught is, but for years, even before the memorial opened, we had people, mostly women across the nation, when they read an obituary that said that woman had served in the military, they cut the obituary out, and they'd save up until they had 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 of them. They'd put them in a big envelope and they'd mail them to Brigadier General Wilma Vaught, care of the Military Women's Memorial. And General Vaught would open them and do her level best, and as would her team, but we just don't have the staff. So what ended up happening over all those years, and thank God the woman is an incredible pack rat, in that she never let any of those go. She never thought, I'm cleaning out my office, I'm throwing them away. So we have bankers boxes after bankers box after bankers box full of these obituaries. And now what we've started to do, we have 2 people that work on our registration team, and just trying to manage day-to-day operations keeps us busy. We do not have the people now to go through, except they go through in tranches of 50 at a time. These obituaries, we Xerox them, make copies, ideally larger than, you know, how some of those obituaries, I don't know whoever read them back in the day. It was before I needed reading glasses. So we try to enlarge them and make a copy of that. Our team goes in to look to see if that woman's story is registered. If it is, if there's any ancillary information in that obituary, we can go in and just add to it. If they're not registered at all, we don't have the bandwidth to do that. So we set them aside in the not yet registered file. And so now that's what we're doing, is saying, you know, we as the living owe it to those who can no longer speak to tell their story. Why they didn't register, they may have not known the memorial was there. They thought they had more time, who knows why. So this is what we're doing. We have this Adopt a Woman Veteran Project. This is what the story cards look like when you do a great job at them. So basically every day that we lose one of these women and the obituary is already in our safe keepings, or you see a new obituary, we're asking America to help adopt a woman veteran. And it's super easy to do. And again, our database is the only national place that all military women's stories can be found in one central repository. And it does, I think, work nicely when you're doing additional research within the DAR. And again, any of our patriots, all the way back, women patriots from the Revolutionary War, if you have a listing of some of those and they are not yet registered, help us put their stories in the database. It doesn't have to come from the obituaries that we already have. But I mean, I think that's a great touch point of how the DAR can help to amplify some of the amazing stories that are DAR centric. So some of these photos that you see on this slide here, the only reason we have their photos is because somebody else took the time to put their stories in our national database. So the great thing about the DAR, and why I think it's going to be such a fantastic nationwide partnership, is we understand genealogy. We understand the value of all of the extra little snippets of information that are so important. Certainly the photos, but what else can we tell about that woman from the era in which she served? So the easiest way, once you create an account, and I would encourage anybody to, every one of you have to have your own account. You cannot do this unless you create an account. So the QR code that you see on the screen right now, you can take your smartphone, take a picture of that. It takes less than 30 seconds to create an account. Once you have that account, you know, hang on before you actually go through the whole thing, but you can do that, or you can go to our website. We'll show you how to do that. So who can be registered? All women that ever served in the uniformed services, including the Public Health Service, NOAA, and the Merchant Marines. And then we have this cast of characters of all of these we also served, especially during World War II. with the Red Cross, the USO, but the women of the Red Cross and the USO that served in Iraq, Afghanistan, Jordan, Syria, Bahrain, these current women, they can put their stories in here as well. And all of these others, Salvation Army, YW and YMCA, the OSS, the precursor to the CIA, which Julia Child, her story's in there. All of these. And if you have any questions, just double check with us. And we do have Rosie the Riveters that are in our database as well. So this is how it kind of works, how you participate. If you contact us via registration@womensmemorial.org, one of the women from that team will send you a packet in the mail. You'll get a beautiful blue envelope with the obituary and any other information we already have of a not yet registered woman, as well as the Adopt a Woman Veteran resource packet, which really walks you through it, holds your hand through it. It's about 22 pages worth of information. And it's also on our website. I'll show that to you a little bit later. So if you haven't already done it, you'll create your own account. You sign up using your information. That's how you create your account, because maybe over the next 10 years, you're going to register 10, 15, 20, 30 women into the database. You have to have an account in order to do that. It's the only way that we have a mechanism to provide oversight and governance on what's happening within our research database. So you got to log into it. And then you'll register your veteran that we've shared the information with. And keep in mind that once you have your account, you own your account for life. But once you start to put another woman's story into the database, you get 30 days, start to finish, once you start putting her information in. So do your research, the detective work, and have it all in a file folder before you get started to put her information into our database. Because it could take you a couple of months through Find a Grave, through the DAR, through Ancestry.com. A couple of people have already found families of the deceased woman through Ancestry.com, and they've actually connected and asked for more information, and the family had no idea. So now that we've gotten their story card completed, we've sent it back to the family, and they're just bowled away that they never knew their mother or grandmother ever had a national place for her story to reside. So that's the thing. Just remember, you get 30 days from the time you start putting her in. Once you add her name in to register a servicewoman, this clock starts counting. So there's that. Again, we ask if you already have an account because you're a servicewoman yourself, don't go in and create a different account. You're going to use the same one. I register women under my account as well. As a matter of fact, I'll show you one of them that I registered that's in our groupings here. So if you forget your password, it's super easy. You just go as if you're trying to log in, but right below that, it will say, reset my password. Click on that, put in the email address you used, because to log in, it's your email address and whatever password you've chosen. So you can reset the password pretty quickly within seconds. And then again, double check, even if we sent you that woman's story that we said we checked, she's not in the database, and you spent a couple of months doing the research on her, and now you're ready to put her story in, before you click on register a servicewoman, I'll show you where it says double check, go to find a servicewoman in there, put her name in, because what if somebody in the last 2 months decided, that's my grandmother, let me put her story in because I just heard about this. And we'd be doing double duty. So we'll just ask you to double check it one last time.
What about nicknames? Could it have been put in under a nickname?
It absolutely can have been. The easiest way when you go searching, more information is not better. Many times what we say when you're looking on who to register, put in the first letter of her first name only, not a full name, and then her last name. And don't worry about what was her name when she served, as opposed to what was her name much later. You know, most of the women that register themselves, they register themselves with whatever name they had in the 1980s and 90s or 2000s, not the name, because how is the family, the grandson, granddaughter going to go find somebody when she used her maiden name? And most people don't know what their grandmother's maiden name is. but it was my grandma. And so if I was going to go look for somebody in the name of my grandma Stutzman, I think her maiden name was Christner, but her name for life basically was Carrie Stutzman, not Carrie Christner. So, you can plug in several different names, see if it matches up, if that woman's story looks like your woman's story, but then just contact us and we'll help you. Obviously, and also photos. It's best to include a photo if you can. If you can't find one, sometimes on Find a Grave or Ancestry, you might find something. And then you guys understand that when you do put information in, you'll see in the center of the slide here, as easy as adding the information from a document about your woman and then citing the source, saying as an example, it's from the obituary, the Baltimore Sun, dated May 11th, 1973. So that the researchers can go back and find additional information perhaps about that. They may be able to find that there was some kind of an article about a car accident 5 days prior, or whoever knows what else they might be looking for. It also helps if families looking for additional information. So these are some of the stories that we make sure it was not the individual themselves that created the stories that you see on this slide. Here's some of the examples of what was put in there, and you'll see at the bottom, the very last line here, that it came from the Pittsburgh Courier in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. There's the link where it came from, a website address to give her more information about her being a surgical nurse at the Tuskegee Army Airfield. And it says the base's newspaper, June 10th, 1944, reports she had been promoted to first lieutenant. So based on the July 15, 1946 roster, she had separated from the service. So somebody put in, and this is Sandy Adams. She's actually one of our ambassadors in California and is a retired Navy admiral. But she did her homework and put a photo in. She didn't know the exact dates, but there's some information in here that does include her information. These are all just templated examples. This young lady, she passed away from complications due to pneumonia while she was serving in the military. So again, all of these stories, just as much information as you can that sort of gives you a glimpse into who she is. This young lady likewise, it says Captain Harris's name will be added to the marble tablet designated to honor Naval Academy graduates who were killed in action. She's only the second woman to be so honored. But again, these are those stories that deserve to be told. So she served in the Marine Corps from 2000 to 2007. Another one, Coast Guard woman of World War II. Bill Ingram is the one that included her story. It says Ruth became a spar on her 20th birthday and was proud to serve her country. This is an excerpt from her obituary. So they just keep going. So how does this work? If you were looking at a computer, and you'll see this on the video, you can stop it at any time if you're watching this as a film, but you create your account. There's the QR code, or you go to womensmemorial.org, and where this red arrow was pointing, create an account. The QR code will take you directly to that landing page where you'd create the account. That's step one. Step two, there's the data to fill in. It's your name, your address, put in your email address, and you choose a password. Now, one of the questions in the drop down here is, are you a servicewoman, past or present? It drops down yes or no. You pick which one it is. Once you've answered just these few fields here, you click where this red is, and now you have an account. You'll have a member number. And just to be certain that you're aware, all of your information is protected, and it can only be accessed by our staff that need to see it. Less than half of our staff actually have access to the backside of the research database. So once you've created that account, your page will now look like this. It'll be your personal snapshot. So if you are not a servicewoman, you will not see a complete my registration, this second from the top red bar, but where this arrow is pointing, register a servicewoman, is where you would start to register somebody else. So again, that reminder over here in red, once you start to register another servicewoman, you have 30 days to start. And once that locks you out where you cannot update it anymore, just contact us and we'll help you finish it if need be. The next step is to ensure, once you've done your research on homework on this obituary or other data we provide, where the blue arrow is pointing, find a servicewoman. It's the last thing on your landing page that you'll see on the left-hand side, find a servicewoman. And we do highly recommend on the first name, just the first letter of her first name and her full last name, and then type search and see, you may get several names in that search category with just like an L and then the last name of Webster. You may get several Lynn, Leslie, Websters, but double check, is your gal in there? If she already is, click on it, view her story, see if you have additional information that you can push to us that we can then upload and incorporate into that. You may have done some fantastic research and data that we can now just go ahead and add it to an already existing account. So again, this reminds you, keep it simple on the search. The more information, you would think if you put your first name, your middle name, last name, maiden name, all of that in there, and what branch of service, you would find it. It makes it even more difficult for some reason. So once you've done that, if your woman is not already registered, you'll start completing her information. And then once you put in this basic information, you'll click register a servicewoman. Now you've got it started. You've got a lot more fields to go with, but that at least has her in our database. The next step, you'll complete, this is very important here, your relationship to her. You'll just say other, because unless you're related to her somehow, if you're a family member. And then the registration campaign, where this red arrow is, please in the drop down choose March with me. This is how we know that we've reached out to you, you've been part of this. This way we know it's the campaign that you've heard about, this Adopt a Woman Veteran Project, and you're marching with us in order to get her story in there. And then just complete as much of the information as you possibly can. You'll see it too when you do the registration campaign drop down. It will give you some choices, and one of them will be the March with Me. And also on our website, I'll show it once we're done with the presentation. There's the Veteran Resource Guide is just sitting there on our website. You can always scroll through all of these slides. It's all there. Step 7, you can complete any additional supplemental information. Please, if she is deceased, which I'm guessing she would be if you've gotten an obituary, please make sure you check the box where that red arrow is pointing that she is deceased. We have metrics where we're trying to track the number or percent of the stories that we have in the database that are living vice deceased. And so we have women that are now 118 years old, but they're not yet marked deceased. And we don't have the staff power to go in and double check against some of these, like Find a Graves and other things, which would be another DAR project, is to help us clean up some of these stories to find out if some of these extremely older women that are unlikely still alive, that we go in and we can update our database to show that they are in fact no longer living. So as you get through this, you'll agree and continue. Then you enter the service dates the best you can. If you only have, when she started, but you don't know when she stopped, give any information that you have. It doesn't have to, you don't have to bookend it. If you don't have one of them, at least give us what you do have. And then at the bottom of the page, you have to click the red button, add. If you don't do that, it's not going to map over into her account. And you can add more. Like for me, I have multiple times of service. They weren't just continuous. So sometimes you'll find a woman served in World War II, and then she was a nurse and she came back in for Korea. So she might have been out from 47, 48, 49, but around 50, 51, she came back in. So you can show those additional dates of service, and they will populate across. Once you hit add, you'll see this on your screen. So you'll know, okay, what branch of service and when she either started from and her end date, if you have it, and then you'll click finish once you're satisfied with the information. Now, once you've clicked finish, you've put at least your basic information in, you want to add more things to it. This is the registered member across the bottom. This would be the individual, your account, if you will. This is you, or You may not actually have a presentation to see if you're not a servicewoman, but this would be the how you can view and update that particular woman's account. I see that they're both the same, but this is how you can view what it looks like to date. And then you can say, oh, I've got to fix that, or you have too much text and it ends half sentence on the memorable experiences. So clean it up so that whenever you click view, it's a solid paragraph, ends with a period, and not with, I wonder what the rest of it was going to be. And again, after 30 days, if you have any updates, you're going to contact us or call this number and ask for assistance. But otherwise, you'd be able to click on the update and add more information. And the final step then is, if you are in fact a servicewoman, is to complete your own registration if they haven't done that yet. So this is fundamentally what we say. We want to thank everybody, of course, for helping to adopt one or more of these women. We have so many of them. But as an example, these are some additional of the profiles that we have. This one, it was a gentleman that registered her from Civil Air Patrol in World War II to Mary Ripperton registered her. She served only in 1945. It says she enlisted into the Army during World War II when her husband was shipped overseas. She worked in purchasing, contracting, and transportations in Jackson, Mississippi, and she passed away in 2003. She was buried at the George Washington Cemetery in New Jersey, where she received an honor guard from West Point Military Academy in honor of her service. She's survived by her husband, 7 children, 14 grandchildren, and 3 great-grandchildren. May she rest in peace. So that was just excerpted from her obituary, but isn't that lovely? And without somebody like you helping us there may be enough in the obituary to make it meaningful, but many times it isn't. And again, think of this as an education tool, and that's what I love about the DAR. If we're going to talk about patriotism and education, if a young student got this printout and then it also clearly articulated a little bit about what caused World War II, how long did it last, that when her husband served in the European theater of operation, we can elaborate, add more history to it, if nothing else, if not her personal story, but that we fought, American servicemen and women fought in both Europe and the Pacific theaters of operation. Help a young person or somebody maybe older that doesn't know their own American history, talk about what these women did and what the Women's Army Corps was, when it was started, when it ended, those kind of things. I think we can do great history lessons, but also tell her story. This one with Gretchen, it even starts, it says from her obituary, and it's all in there. And what you love is the beginning of her service found the unit on the beaches of Normandy 3 weeks after D-Day. By the end of the war, she was in Germany helping victims of a slave labor camp. In between, she was with the Third Army of George Patton as it liberated France and drove the German army back towards Berlin. At one point, she interceded as desperate officers were about to convert mail trucks into combat vehicles and burn the mail by the roadside. But using her convoy, she ferried Christmas messages from the frontline troops trapped by the German counterattack in what became known as the Battle of the Bulge. And so it goes on. I mean, what a fantastic story, right?
Huge.
Yes. And she went on, she earned a master's degree from Columbia in 1940, then taught and coached at the Chapin School. I had the fun of teaching the future Jackie Kennedy, she told the Globe. During World War II, she considered joining the Army, but chose the Red Cross because it guaranteed overseas duty. Oh my God. How lovely, right? Paula Loop, Tech Sergeant Gomez. She served honorably, was later assigned then to Lackland Air Force Base, and she deployed in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom, Enduring Freedom, and Southern Watch, during which she received numerous medals. And this is an excerpt from her obituary. There needs to be more information there. What the hell happened? She's young. It doesn't make sense. So there should be more information on this. It just keeps going. This one I personally registered. Her son is a friend of mine, and he was just so over the moon. Here she was, this little Philippine woman in the Philippines during World War II, and all of the work that they did working with the Philippine guerrillas that were resistance forces against the Japanese and supporting the American troops in the Philippines. They made it to the States. Her son became an Army colonel, a dentist, and now he's a civilian aide to the Secretary of the Army in Florida. So, I mean, just from this little lady to what, you know, the American dream. So, yeah, and the Congressional Gold Medal, the Filipino World War II Congressional Gold Medal recipient. I would have never known this incredible story except her son started telling me about it. And I'm like, well, we've got to put her story in here. So they just continued. They go on and on and on. This woman, she joined the Army WACs and attained the rank of first lieutenant, commanding more than 300 enlisted women before being discharged in 1947. This is an excerpt from her obituary. I feel like some of these, gosh, wouldn't you love to take the time to put more meat on those bones? This young lady also. Yeah, she joined the Illinois Guard in 2004, deployed to Iraq in 2007. And she died as a result of injuries suffered from a single vehicle accident while conducting a medical transfer of a patient. She was posthumously promoted to the rank of specialist, and the governor of Illinois ordered all state buildings to fly their state and American flags at half staff in her honor. So they just keep coming. And even if you don't have a photo, we still want the story. I mean, don't say, well, you know, let me move on to another one. No, somebody somewhere will find a photo, but at least we've got the guts of the information in there. And again, just we have 312,000, almost 313,000 of those. So that's the fun of that. What I want to show you is on our website how you can navigate to share that. Okay, so we're back over here. There we go. So this is our website, womensmemorial.org. Once you're here, if you want help, come to support. We'll support you. Think of it that way. Adopt a Woman Veteran Project. You'll click on that. And as I scroll down, it talks about the project, an example, how you tell her story, how to participate. Contact us here at registration@womensmemorial.org. You can also hear where it's in blue, adopt a veteran project resource guide. I'm going to click on this because this pretty much is the end of this particular page. What you want is to get to the adoptive veteran project, but when you get to this resource guide, this is the same basically as the slides I just gave you, but it's on our website. Just click on it. And as you scroll down, you're going to see the same thing I just walked you through as a PowerPoint. So step by step, best practices, no duplicate registrations, tips on how to register them. And it even gives you those same women's stories, but here's your steps one by one. Have this up on one screen or on your phone on the website and just tool down one at a time. Okay, there's step 2. Let me follow what it says, create the account. Now let me go to the next one. So, you know, between that or, you know, you can always hit print, I suppose, but just walks you through every single one of them all over again. So once you get there, and I believe it even has all of those great stories at the end. Yep. So you can read all of these amazing examples, which we do on purpose so that you have some idea of how we got the stories. Like this is the one that I registered, and the same thing will happen. You created your account, you register a woman, your name will be here as the person that registered. And if you want to, we can go in after the fact if you want to list that it was like Arlington House DAR, you know, as a way, or we can just pull all of the names of your women that have accounts and we can see how many you guys registered. So I hope that answers the starting questions. Now ask me what you want to know more about.
Oh, this is great. I just discovered my great aunt was a WAC during World War II.
Awesome. And she's not registered?
I don't know. I'm going to have to look into it to see if she is. It would have been Viola Shoemaker. And
Is that her married name?
yeah, that's her married name.
Spell Shoemaker.
Schumaker.
See if I can find a Viola. I
That's
did not
pretty
find a
cool.
Viola Shoemaker spelled that way. So
So
Phyllis,
she's
it seems very straightforward. I think that people will be able to get a good sense of what to do based on listening to this recording.
I think so too. I'm hopeful. And any feedback that you guys have on, like, if you have any hiccups along the way, or boy, I wish they had told me that. We'd like to know that so we can go in and update this process, because we think this is going to be a multi-year effort. We
Oh,
have
yes.
so many of them that
Yes.
it just makes sense to ask America, help us get these stories in there. We cannot possibly, there's 20 people that work here, and a couple of them, they know how to bring up a cash register at the gift shop.
Yeah.
Don't know how to do this.
No.
So we need America, and why not the DAR to lead the way on this, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think once you do one, you're going to get kind of addicted to them. I am. I try to do at least one a month, because one, it makes me feel good, but I learned so very much about
Yes.
these eras, these stories. I mean, she taught Jackie Kennedy. Oh my God, right? I mean, if you're ever looking for something, you want to write a book about, 15 or 20 amazing women from the Red Cross, from the military, from the USO, the OSS. I mean, you could have a different chapter about each of these women, actually going all the way back to the Revolutionary War. But again, I have two of my patriots are women. Their stories aren't in here. And I want to work on getting them into our database. I need more information. I'm not there yet, but it's in my list of things to do. But I think once you get started, at least once a quarter, you're like, give me another one and I'm ready.
Yeah.
It's kind of addicting. Yes, ma'am. Go, Janice.
Yes, we discussed this before, but I wondered if you had any updates on the National Personnel Record Center. Have you heard anything lately?
With regards to what about the National Personnel Records?
Getting an answer.
Yeah, communications from them. They're just not
Oh.
answering.
I just wondered if you had any, if you had heard anything. I had
We don't have any touch points at all, honestly. We just don't reach out to them.
I had submitted it in September by mail, and I submitted it again in December by fax.
What did you submit?
I submitted the request for information on my cousin. And they answered the first one within about 3 weeks. And I thought this was great. But the only thing they could come up with, I think, was her service number and wanted more information. And I filled it all out and sent it back.
And Janice, we tried to find her in our system, right? We couldn't.
She isn't in the system yet. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just wondered if you'd heard any updates. Also, I was wondering because they evidently trained women in the Women's Army Corps, at least during Korea, at Fort Benning, which is now Fort Moore, I believe.
It is.
And I actually, when I talked to someone at the Record Center, they told me to call them, which I thought was probably pretty useless, but I thought, okay, I'll try. And I can't get anybody to return my telephone calls.
So are these both Army women that you're looking for information on?
One woman.
One woman, Army.
Yeah.
Have you reached out to the Army Women's Museum down at it was Fort Lee near Richmond, but is now Fort Gregg Adams?
No, I'll do that.
Yeah, the Army Women's Museum.
It's Fort what now?
Gregg, Gregg
Okay.
Adams.
Okay.
So they are the ones that, I mean, they used to manage everything for the longest time. It was after World War II, but all of the WACs went through Fort McClellan, Alabama for their training. And that's where the Army Women's Museum was initially stood up. And then as McClellan was sort of being not completely mothballed, but pretty close, they moved it up to Fort Lee. And now the Army Women's Museum, and there is a organization called the Friends of the Army Women's Museum Association that helps in the fundraising. But to be fair, the Army Women's Museum falls under the umbrella of the Army Museum System. And so that is funded through the Army, big Army. And so all of their staff are CAT car, Department of the Army civilians paid through Department of the Army. It's like, I wish to gosh, my team was, had a CAT card, military card, and they were Govy civilians, but they're not. And so, we don't hire anybody new because we can't afford to hire anybody new, and we can't put anything in we can build a budget. We do it every year. It doesn't mean we're going to hit the budget every year. We're already carrying a 75K bogey this year, and the board even approved that, knowing that we're short 75,000. So what are we going to do?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Any other questions, Janice, on that? But use them first as a resource, the Army Women's Museum, but there's got to be some other places. And, again, you never know who may have put something in ancestry.com. I have found draft cards. I have found information on, obviously, draft for the men, but I've found the service contract in ancestry.com on people that I'm just noodling around in there. I'm like, how did it get in there? We never saw that, but there it is.
It was funny because on the veterans information, I did find her, and her first name is Mary Ann, and they have her listed as a male. Which I think may be complicating the situation.
Is it all one word, Mary Ann?
Yes.
And what's her last name?
Gates. Well, the maiden name was Gates, Gates.
And then what was her married name?
Jordan.
Jordan.
Yes, he was in Korea.
Okay, so wait a second. Mary Ann Gates.
Yes. I think there may be another one. I know there's another one.
I see a Mary Ann Gates in an obituary. It's all one word, Mary Ann, but she was born in 44. But that's not who you're talking about.
No, but there were two Mary Ann Gateses, 118 and 119 at the then Fort Benning, which I thought was kind of strange too.
And where did she live?
Coincidence.
Southern Illinois.
Do you even have her obituary?
No. I'm not sure there was one.
When did she die?
I think it was about 2007 or something. She died in Yukon, Oklahoma.
Oh, okay. Because I heard you say Illinois, so I was thinking.
No. But, I don't think there was ever an obituary. So.
You're going to make me do my research now.
No,
We're all
I
curious.
have other things to do. The other thing is, I've talked to some women, some who are living actually, who did serve, but they seem to be a little reluctant to put their names forward.
They are. A lot of women, for whatever reason, it's like, I didn't do anything. I don't really. And here's what I tell the women that when you run into them now, they understand being part of a team and the value of doing things for the good of the order for others. And I tell them, listen, it's not even really about you. It's about the women that came before us, that did it when it was really hard. And now researchers are looking at what has happened over the decades, the change, the advances, the so forth. And there's very little to show for the last 30 years in our database. The women of World War I, II, Korea, and even Vietnam, they knew they were trailblazers. They were capped at 2% of the military. They knew, because there were so damn few of them, that it was important to tell their stories. And now, because there's no limit, And
Mhm.
women see so many other women around them. They're like, what's the big deal? How about you do it because it's proof in the pudding that what they did meant something?
Mhm.
And that's what I tell them. And it seems to be working. They're like, okay, it's not, don't tell me, oh, I'm just doing my job. Okay, so were they.
Yeah.
But they did it when it was a lot harder. And now what we need is proof that, and some of these women are also at times, it's like the men trying to keep us down and so forth. I said, listen, Congress approved the creation of this memorial back in 1986. We've had the database up and running since 1988. The only reason your story isn't being told is not like nobody else is keeping it from being told except you.
Mhm.
Good point.
And you can say that, you're just one person. What's the big deal? Well, because everybody seems to be doing that nowadays, or they want to know what's in it for me. Why should I do it? It isn't for you. It's for America and it's for all of those that came before you and those that will come afterwards. And once they see their story in the database and they see it on the wall in the memorial, they get choked up. Those that were like, I don't care, it doesn't matter. But when they realize it's a national memorial and their story is there forevermore, they can update it, they can change it, they can add a new something to it, especially those that are still serving. Next promotion, next memorable experience, add it. Keep it going so the researchers and those that want to write about what we have done can actually find this great continuum of stories instead of it just sort of peters out. More women are serving now. From 1955 to 1975, during the Vietnam era, 265,000 women served in uniform that whole 20 years. Right now, today, way more than 265,000 women are serving right now, and they think nothing of it.
Yeah.
And that's the shame of it, is that we've gotten very complacent.
Yeah.
But the stories still matter. And so that's where I would encourage you, please challenge them to think about it a little differently and not be just about, well, I don't really see the point.
Good advice.
And they should elaborate on what their unit did, not if they're so shy or complacent that they don't want to talk about themselves, but as a unit, they did X, Y, and Z. And that was,
well, a lot of them don't realize that
important.
the career field that they're in now wasn't open 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Oh,
They have no
exactly.
idea. So they
Exactly.
are early trailblazers in that career field. They just
Yeah.
know it. I mean, submarines weren't opened until 12 years ago. And now
Yeah.
we have the first woman to be a chief of the boat, the senior enlisted on the boat. She's there and doing it. And she still was like reluctant to do anything. I'm like, baby cakes, put your name in. Come on.
Do it.
Not a big deal.
Uh-huh.
I get it to you, but it is to America. It is to our history. 100 years from now, when somebody goes, who was the first, or who were some of the first trailblazers in women in the subs? You would be in that category.
Yes.
I'm just doing my job. So wasn't everybody before you. They weren't out there looking for glory.
Yeah.
So, it's just trying to get them to reframe how it is, but exactly to that point, Nancy, about the idea of then tell about your organization, your unit, but do put in what your career field is, your MOS. I mean, these women that are rangers or in infantry and, amazing fields that 30 years ago were not open.
Right.
But those women that came 50 years ago set the conditions so that you could do it and not even realize how freaking amazing it is what you get to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to start digging and researching one of your deceased ladies, because you're right. Who's going to tell their story if it's not the Women's Memorial?
Yeah, exactly. And then how can researchers ever hope to find, this wealth of information?
Yes.
Short of going dumpster diving all over the place. So again, I think the great thing I love about the DAR is we understand the value of accuracy in the information. And so again, trying to make sure that across the nation, that we get this done. I'm working with President General to get a call to action, one pager in the American Spirit a couple of times yet the rest of this calendar year. Adopt a woman veteran, and we'll get that built out. we think that the President General and I were going to do a short video shout out call to action, asking all of the DAR to take this on as a project.
Mhm.
Because I mean, we have just tens of thousands of these that are looking for somebody that will care for and curate their individual story.
Right. So
But-
once we go onto the database and we indicate that we want to provide support by participating in this project, then you will send us the name of a veteran.
All you have to do, you create your own account.
Yeah.
It takes 30 seconds. Create that account so you've
Yeah.
got an account made.
I already done that.
The best thing to do is to email
Yeah.
registration
Mhm.
at womensmemorial.org
Okay.
and put in the subject line, adopt a woman veteran. And then just
Gotcha.
tell them your name, that you already have created a friend's account. If you're not a military woman, you're either a member of the memorial as a military woman, or you're a friend of the memorial as a non-military woman or man. All
Right.
men. And then just tell them, here's my member account number. I want to adopt a woman veteran. And they will respond back to you via email, but they're going to need your mailing address. But because you have an account,
Yeah.
we can look it up and confirm your address in your account, and that's where we'll mail you your. So you'll be waiting for the hard, snail mail to show up, but we find that people really are looking forward to and having that blue envelope arrive that's got the it's in a white envelope, but when you open it up, inside is the blue envelope with the woman's story inside.
Great. Okay. I can't wait to get started.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, send us an email as soon as Chris gets it.
will.
She will, I would guess if you send it in the next day or two, probably by Friday, you may well have it in your mailbox.
Wow.
So, and
Okay.
do give us proper feedback, please, on anything good, of course, but anything that you feel like we could do better. Let us
Right.
know. We'd love
course.
to, because we own our website. We can go in and change any of that information. If
Yeah.
it needs to be, it's like it was gunky, it was clunky, you had trouble understanding. Just give us some advice on what you'd like it to say that you think would be a little bit more crisp and clear.
Sure.
Love to have it. We're winging it every day. So
And
anything,
can you just, I haven't looked her up, but is Jane Delano in your website?
Yes, I've looked her up.
what's the
good.
name?
Good.
Say it again.
Jane
Jane-
Delano.
Jane Delano.
Jane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Last name?
Delano.
Like Franklin Delano?
Same.
That's the one.
The big gravestone in the Arlington National Cemetery.
Yes, oh, yes. Because I spoke at the American Red Cross recently. So hang on, I'm pulling her story up so I can share it with you.
I'm just
Yeah.
curious who put her in.
It was like a nephew
The
or
Army Nurse Corps Association.
You bet.
Yeah, but
Oh.
the original had like some Fred Delano or something, and he had a World War II picture of a nurse, and I got with Morella about it, and she made the corrections.
Yeah, I saw the quote and information right there by the Red Cross headquarters, right next to DAR headquarters.
Mhm.
So I get to go over there and give them a briefing, and I can't tell you how many amazing Red Cross women's stories we have in our database. But again, here you go. This was.
Yeah. Okay. So the Army Nurse Corps put her in. Well, that's good that she's in there. That's great.
There
Yeah.
was some original one from like a Fred Delano there, and it was just screwy.
Well,
Maybe it got updated.
Yeah.
You know, for some reason, I don't think her middle name was Amanda.
well, if you want to give us any feedback on it, we're
I will.
happy to
I will,
review.
because that was researching Jane Delano was my first kind of like reverse genealogy assignment. The chapter wanted to honor her and mark her grave with the DAR insignia, and we had to track her forward to a living relative because she didn't have any children. And we actually found somebody who was a distant relative, but he wouldn't sign the paperwork.
I think I'm going to go
Allowing
ahead
us to
and
do
fix
that.
this because you are seemingly correct here. Her middle name is not Amanda, it's Arminda.
That's it.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
it. Arminda.
Jane Arminda.
Correct.
So there you go.
That's quite
Yeah.
a picture.
I know, right?
Mhm.
She was an amazing woman.
Yeah, so
Truly.
this is off from the National Women's History Museum, so they've got some good information. Of course,
Oh,
the-
absolutely.
some of these
Yes.
other women's stories. So of course, Dr. Mary Walker, Dorothea Dix, all of these women are already in
Okay.
there, but you can
Yeah.
always double check. Once you get your own account under Find a Servicewoman,
Mhm.
put
Yeah.
any of these names in and see, again, if you try to put in like Mary Edwards Walker, you may not find her, but under Mary Walker, you probably would. Dorothea Dix, sometimes just put in the last name. But yeah,
What website are you on right now?
I'm on the National Women's History Museum.
Wow.
Oh, okay. That's a good one to know.
Yeah, there's a lot of great ones that you can find and, under the find a name, find a servicewoman, you may well find that there's one of these stories that are,
Womenshistory.org. Okay.
yep, womenshistory.org. It's a really beautiful, they've got a lot of great information. They have been trying for years to have a physical museum, but they have a digital one that is splendid. There's all kinds of great information in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Oh, that was quite a write-up on Jane Delano.
Okay,
Okay,
so
good.
I need to go
All
in
right.
there and fix her name. All right, I will do that.
Thanks.
Phyllis, I just have a quick question. If
course.
I find a picture of a woman, but it's with, say, another woman, another person that served, a man, a woman, a sibling, or whatever,
Mhm.
can you put that in for
We
that
do.
person?
We have many of those, whether
Okay.
sometimes it's a group photo.
Yep.
And ideally, somewhere in the text, we'll identify that she's second from the left or whatever. Yeah, so sometimes the woman herself, when she registers, it's she and her husband, it's she and her son, it's whatever,
Makes sense.
And if we can't find one in uniform, any picture is better than none, just so you sort of feel like you have a connection with her.
Yeah.
Even if it's the one, the grainy one out of the obituary, anything is better than nothing at all.
True.
Well, thank you guys so much for taking the time.
Super exciting.
Get excited for this, and let's see if we can just make this permeate, do ripples across the state of
Yeah.
Virginia.
Now, can you share this recording with us so that we can then share it with our members who
Of
has?
course, I'll turn it
expressed
into a
interest?
YouTube video and I'll email it back to you guys here in the next 10 minutes or so.
That's
Awesome.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you
righty.
all. All right. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.
We appreciate the time.
Count your
Bye-bye.
hour for community service now.
All good.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Phyllis.
Bye.